Alright, so today I just took apart a motorcycle starter and we want to see for ourselves what we have inside here. This is not my first time servicing a starter, but if it is yours, you can tune in and see what you can expect. So I just took it outside of this is the place it's supposed to go. This is where my starter is. For different motorcycles, there is different positioning for the starter. For someone like TVS Star, we have the starter right here. And for Honda S125, we also have a starter right here. It's a bit hard to access because you have to take out this. But for my case, right here. So I took out the starter and there are different bolts you will come across. This one is the first very long bolt and then the second one. For this particular type of motor, there are only those two bolts holding it in. Now this one will be the bottom plate. You can look at it very, very carefully. This one is the ground wire. And we have also the positive that comes inside it, which is supposed to be these ones. But then again, I'll tell you more about this later, so don't worry about them. So this one is the bottom plate. I don't know if I can call it plate, but this is the bottom part of the starter. Then this one is the middle part of the starter. And then this one is the top part of the starter. So then you have something that looks like this. Good? Good. So you have two washers here. One is for the top, one is for the bottom. And by top and bottom, I mean this one and this one. This one is actually your, what do we call this one? Your coil. I don't know, magnetic coil thing. This one. And in the belly of the starter here, kwa tumbo yake, is where we have the magnets, which are supposed to be circling this one. So it can rotate. You also have two gaskets, the top gasket and the bottom gasket. I'll tell you where they go in a bit. But in a nutshell, this is what you have, right? This is what you have. Now, there's one thing I've not yet talked about, which is these ones. They're called the starter brushes. Okay? One is positive, one is negative. The positive one is this one that has the rod. And it goes into this hole right here. And now this brush, this one, as you can see here, will go inside one of these holes. Now they have something like a spring, this one, that is used to push them out. So every time they get finished, they are pushed out a little bit more until they are complete. Now if they are complete, you need to open the starter and replace them. Now, the negative one is also connected to the body of the starter using this wire right here. So basically that's what you're supposed to be expecting inside the starter. Now how do you know that your starter is not functioning? Have you ever just come to your bike and you insert your keys? Where are my keys? Alright. You insert your keys and then you press on your start button and then you hear a sound. Tuck, tuck. Nothing is happening with the starter. You just hear a sound. Tuck, tuck. Nothing is happening. Most of the time, you can either be handling two problems with that, and one of the problems might mean you have a very poor connection between your battery and your starter, which is supposed to be here. This is the ground wire that is supposed to go to the starter, and this is the positive wire that is supposed to go to the starter. Now, one big problem you might have is current problem, because for the current to go to your starter, it has to pass through something we call, what is this, a relay? It has a name, I'm forgetting this name. This one. It has a name, I'm forgetting this name. It's kind of a relay. I've forgotten the name. But it has two wires, like that, here and here. So actually what it does, it is the fact that this switch, it's a small switch, and it cannot actually just send that much power to the starter as you want. So what it does, it sends power to this thing. Oh, it's a solenoid, I just remembered. It sends power to the solenoid, and then the solenoid creates that huge power that is supposed to be powering your starter, and it sends them to these. And then your starter comes on. So when you press this and you hear tuck tuck sound, that sound comes from this thing, the solenoid. It means it is not able to reach the starter. For some reason, it is getting that power, but it is not getting to the starter. Now, the things you need to look at is your connections between the solenoid and the battery. If you have a loose connection, you will have that problem. If you also have less than enough voltage, you will also hear that sound problem. And then also again, then another thing is you will be having problems with your starter brushes. As you have seen there, I've shown you the brushes. So if your brushes are stuck or they are finished, imezunguka zunguka zikaisha, you will have a problem with your starter. So again, check for the current in your batteries, check for the wire, and if all those are checking out correct, you need to open your starter and check for your brushes. So my brushes were recently replaced and I did not actually sand them down well for them to be pushed well inside these things, these ones. So this way I have a sandpaper here today, so I'm sanding them so that they can work. Yeah, so you need to have also a set of tools that work well for you. And if you have this set, I have a video that reviews this set, so I'll put the link down in the description. And yeah, so yeah, if you can check that one, then you might have checked all your problems. Also, you need spares for the brushes, so when you go buy that, when you find out that's actually the problem, you can go buy the spares and you can fix it by yourself. And that one, by the way, I've just taught you how to diagnose a starter problem. If you can hear a sound when you press this button, sometimes you can hear tuck tuck tuck, that means the starter is not I don't think I can show you the sound right now because yeah, as you can see, I have disconnected my starter and I've disconnected all my wires. I'm sorry I couldn't show you the process because I was not actually thinking about shooting a video by the time I was doing that, but I don't know if I can get the sound for you. Oh, my wires are a little bit off right now. I don't think I can connect these things for you to hear the sound. I don't want to risk. But it goes tuck, tuck, tuck. So it's a particular type of sound. Yeah, and you hear it every time you press. Like when you're supposed to be hearing your starter, you'll be hearing that. Anyway, so if you press this and there is no tick sound here, then your problem is much bigger. Actually, it's much smaller, depending on your perspective. I think if you press this one and you don't hear a sound on your solenoid, then it means your problem might be from here all the way to the solenoid. Hapo katikati, the wiring that goes from here to your solenoid might be having a problem. Now you need to check that one. For me, that one is even a bigger problem because now I have to take out the tank, I have to take out the seat, I have to take out my luggage box, and I have to look at the wiring from here all the way to the headlight where everything is connected. And then you come back to this place. So for me, that one's a bigger problem. But for you and for someone else who likes huge amount of work, then it also means your starter might be okay. Your battery might be okay and your solenoid might be okay. But of course, always check for the battery voltage. But I think going inside there to check for the wires is a bit of a hard work for me. So if this one is not, you're not hearing any sound here, the wiring might be a little off. So that one to me is a very bigger problem. And yeah, this one. What else? Yeah, of course, I'm talking about a situation where your engine is working perfectly. Like it turns over and it runs. Your starter is the one that is not functioning. If your engine is not running and it's not turning over and you're having starter problems, then I think you need bigger things to worry about first before you can engage your starter. Now I need to go back and fix my starter so that I can make it work. So I'm sanding down my brushes. Here, I just want to give them a desirable shape. Because, you want them to function well when they come inside here. Yeah, like that. These are brushes that are supposed to be pushing this thing. Perfect. My brushes have been sanded down to a desirable shape. Don't worry about my fingers. These are man fingers, bro. I'm doing this so she can have some nice hair. And then I can hit her for Christmas. Yeah, so let me go ahead and insert them inside their place of residence. Okay, so my wires are seated well. This is the positive wire. This one right here is the one that comes in, and it has a little bit of a plastic around it, just to make sure it does not touch the body of the starter, because then the body is the ground, and that one is this brush right here. Don't worry about my connection. I don't have a solder or a solder wire. Maybe one day when my channel grows, I will buy one. Yeah, so I really appreciate your continued support. And this is the ground wire. So yeah, it has no problem holding the body because it actually holds the body when I connect it on the bike. So this brush is supposed to enter here, and then the positive one will enter here. So they will look something like this, and then this thing here will be inside there, and then this one will cover around it, and then on the top we'll have this. So first things first, I need this little bit of a washer on the bottom there, and it goes inside there. All right, so these are my brushes seated very well, this side and this side, two sides. And now this is the rod, and then the magnet is supposed to come next. I very much hope that I'm in focus right now. So yeah, I have to bend in a certain way for you to see this thing. But the starter usually has marks. It has marks like right here, this mark here, and you also, I think you have another one. I think it's just this one, and there are corresponding marks with the body of the starter. So God, man, I'm so much out of focus, man. Sorry about this, but yeah, you need to follow the marks. Let me put it in and then I'll show you. Okay, so I just inserted the body of the magnet. As you can see, this was the mark I was telling you about, Mark 1, Mark 2, and it goes in line with this one. So you need, if you cannot be able to follow the lines, you can draw your line from top to bottom, and then you can follow it with something sharp a little bit. It will create a scratch, but at least. So yeah, I've just inserted the magnet, and you can make sure it turns freely like that. Now the next thing to do is put on this washer, and then I can put on the top. Okay, so I've inserted the top, and yeah, the bolts are not yet in. Here they are. My lines are lining 1, 2 all the way to the bottom. If you can see right there, this is my positive. My negative will be on the body of the starter. I'll show you. I have a top gasket, I don't have a bottom gasket, but I have silicone again, so I'm putting that next. Okay, so the bolts have been inserted here and here. The lines are now a bit off, but this is what it was like before I opened it, so I know, because you have to really take note of where they are. And it is this misalignment that puts these bolts in line. If I have them correctly lined here, my bolts will be a little bit offset. So you have to accept what comes, the little flaws that comes with your machine sometimes. But that is my case. So I'm putting the silicone right now so I can seal this gap. You know, when water comes inside here, everything inside there will rust. So I don't want that. Okay, so I have given it a very generous amount of gray silicone, high heat something, I don't know how to read. Yeah, so perfecto. Now I'm just going to let it cool for a while so that the silicone can solidify, and then she goes back there. Okay, so installation is successful. This is the negative wire and this is the positive wire. So we are at what we call the moment of truth. Let us see if our labor has just paid off.